In this lecture, I'm going to go over how to merge an entire folder of files into a single table using Power Query. So to get started, I am going to come over to Data, Get Data, From File, and over here you'll notice an option called From Folder. So I'm going to select this option here, and it asks me to browse to a path. Now I've set up a folder on my desktop called Files to Merge. So here we go here. That's my folder. I'm going to click OK. And you'll notice here that I have 7 files from basically a list of employees from 2011 to 2017. Now, this screen will look familiar if you used Power Query before. We have a couple of different options here now. So normally you would only have the load button, right? And we also have a combine. So we've got combine, combine edit, combine and load. Now the difference between these is if I just click load, so let me do that first. What you get is you get a list of the files. So it hasn't done any merging yet, but if you wanted a list of all your files, that's a nice and easy way that you can do that. So let me do this again. Let me go back to data, get data, and let's see if we can actually merge these. So I'm going to go through this first step again. Folder, browse, my files to merge folder, click OK. Okay, and this time I'm going to click combine and edit. Now there's a few things I wanted to point out about this when you go to do this. So what this has done is it's taking a sample of our first file to use as a template for importing all of the files. So here I've got an example of the first file. You can see that I have all these different columns which end at a column called head count. Now, to make things a little bit more interesting, the last file here, the employees 2017 file, has one additional column. So that column is basically an extra column called hire date. So this one file has this one additional column that none of the other files do. So we want to see how Power Query actually deals with this. So let's go back to this first file here. We don't have the hire date column. I'm going to click OK. And let's load this to a new sheet. Okay, fantastic. So this is just loaded and merged all of our data. You can see the name of the file here as the first column, which is a nice little feature. If I go to the bottom of this sheet, you can see that we have around 118,000 records all merged together. You can also see that over here on the query. Let me go back up to the top, and now let's see what has it done with this extra column. Hire date. So hire date, as you can see, it's not here. And the reason for this is basically because hire date was not part of the specification of the first sample file. So something important to keep in mind, sometimes when you are loading and merging multiple files together, if all of them have exactly the same columns, then that's fantastic, nice and easy. If they have slightly different columns from each other, they're not all going to merge together. Now, what I can do is I can come back to get data, and this time, instead of using the first file as the sample, I'll use my last file as the sample. And what this will do is it will enable us to add that extra hire date column. And you'll see what this looks like in just a sec. So this time, instead of selecting the first file, I am going to select this employees 2017 file. Click OK. And okay, so this time if we scroll across to our last column, you notice that we do have a hire date column. If I click this option here, we have all of our dates. These will only be applicable to the 2017 employee records, and everything else will be blank. So the thing to keep in mind is that if one of your tables has more columns than the rest of them, then you want to load that up as your sample template for the rest of the data to load into. Now, if you don't have a sample template which contains all of the columns that you want to load. Let's say each of your files has a unique column that isn't contained in the other files, then that's going to be a lot more difficult to merge together. If you're using something else to merge your files, say something like R, it will just automatically add all of the columns from all the different files for you, which then makes it a lot kind of easier to work with. But anyway, there you go, something to keep in mind there. Hope you found this useful. I'll see you in the next lecture.